Yeah, there's quite a laundry list of programs and habitats I've created here. So starting at the road, I have a CRP windbreak. And then I have my CRP tree planting that I did, CRP wetlands here. Right across the hedgerow to my right here is basically a pollinator habitat that I've created there that's primarily just native forbs and flowering types of vegetation there. Further on, with the wetland there is more of a classic native prairie that's sort of dominated by Indian grass and big blue stem and little blue stem, along with the forbs and flowers. And then there's tree plantings there that are all in the Conservation Reserve Program. And then we get to the Maine Woods, which is in the Healthy Forest Reserve Program, which is in a permanent easement that keeps that forest as a forest forever. And then we're into the back of the property that actually has an underground pipeline going through it, that again, on top of that pipeline is all native plants. So forbs and native grasses that are growing on that pipeline. These wetlands, no matter what the size, and we've seen this through the organization I work for, the Nature Conservancy, and our scientists, whether it's a 20-foot by 20-foot wetland, you're going to find plants and animals that will use that. In this case here, this wetland is probably only about a quarter acre or less here, but I could probably document a dozen different species that I've already seen using this wetland. I can tell you there'll be turtles in here, there'll be frogs, and this wetland may dry up and they'll simply move to the wetland about 100 yards away that's about waist deep in middle of the summer, and that's where they'll find refuge, and then they'll come back into this here. But these wetlands have huge importance to our ecosystem, and I'd hate to even guess how many thousand gallons of water this wetland's storing right now that's not going downstream and flooding somebody. A lot of farmers could do this with equipment that they have, and of course there's soil and water conservation districts that have equipment that farmers can rent and use. I did this all on my own. Of course, I said I have been in a business of tree planting, so tree planting's easy for me. My tractor, tree planter's right there, and we can handle that real easy. The prairie plantings, I actually do those. The way I do those, small amount of tillage to get the soil exposed, and then I just frost seed the prairie plants right on top of that, and then let nature do the planting through freezing and thawing. And that's where I've had the best success with planting prairies. And I could use a drill to do that, but I prefer to do it that way because my areas, I'm not trying to restore a 100-acre field here. I'm restoring acres, not hundreds of acres. The best advice I have is ask for some help, especially if you're not familiar with some of these restoration techniques. And Soil and Water Conservation District is always the best place to start. They know all the local experts if they don't have the expertise in-house, and they will point you to that. There's several nonprofit groups, Pheasants Forever, Ducks Unlimited. There's so much help out there. You just simply have to ask and be bold enough to ask. You can take their advice, adapt it to your place. You don't have to follow it to the T every time, but you can learn through their advice that you can get.